Welcome.
All right. Everybody calm down. It's a Monday edition of The Sweat presented by DraftKings alongside Jesse Cofield. I'm Emerson Lazia. I'm excited for this show, really excited, because I know there is so much content stuffed inside it.
Content like NFL futures.
Cool.
Mutt delivers a Derby recap that was going down this weekend. Who to back as the PGA Tour returns to Texas, and why it's not too late to hop on the Edmonton Oilers bandwagon. This man is driving that bandwagon.
Oil me up. Hell yeah, brother. Okay, let's start in the association, though. A couple scores on your screen because on Sunday, the Suns tie their series against Denver, Philly, and Boston, all knotted up at 2. We got Chinmay Vaidya and Jeff Pratt here to help us out with some NBA bets and all that fun stuff. But Jeff, a Celtics stan.
That's you.
You tweeted yesterday and tagged Jesse and I.
Yes.
You said, I might lose my mind on the Sweat tomorrow morning talking about the Celtics. What is it that has you so worked up after that embarrassing finish yesterday, Jeff?
First of all, is that how you read my tweets? Is that your voice?
I was actually very nice with my Jeff voice.
That's very nice. Okay. Good to know. You know, when I tweeted it, I was extremely angry. I've calmed down a little bit since then, but I think pretty much everyone's saying the same thing, so I'll just reiterate. How can this team consistently crumble under pressure in clutch situations? How they can do that amazes me on such a consistent level. They played incredible basketball in the second half. Obviously, they came out flat. Jason Tatum did not score until pretty much the end of the first half. Jaylen Brown did more of the carrying the offense in the first and then didn't show up in the second. But in the second half, they really showed up, and then they're up 5 with a couple of minutes left. Obviously, the Sixers forced overtime and then got it done from there. But it's the last 2 possessions that really exemplify everything that's gone wrong for the Boston Celtics when they've had a chance to take advantage of opponents down the stretch over the last few years. And it's that Jaylen Brown, you're up 2. Why are you doubling strong side off of one of the most prolific scorers in NBA history and leaving him wide open for 3? Giving an opportunity to go up in this game. Just a silly read. And I understood that he took responsibility for that, accountability for it. He was trying to make a play, not the right decision, but at least he understood that. Joe Mazzulla had no accountability whatsoever for leaving 2 timeouts in his pocket after watching Jason Tatum with the ball starting at 19 seconds and not get into his set with 5 seconds left on the clock. And I understand after the game, he said, that was the play. That was the set. We just needed to go into it faster. Well, guess what? If you're the coach and you don't understand and you recognize that your team is not getting into that set fast enough, you have timeouts to call to rectify that situation.
Yep.
And he has consistently failed to call timeouts throughout the entire season. This is not new with Joe Mazzulla. But the Celtics are just they're making it so much more difficult on everyone.
It's pathetic. We don't even make those mistakes in my YMCA men's league. But Chinmay, I want to go to the other game with you because a Nuggets playoff record, 53 points for Nikola Jokic. He was also fighting the Suns owner.
Not fighting.
All right, the Suns owner, it's like the LeBron of floppers when it comes to ownership in the NBA. That was pathetic.
He did handle it really, I will say, they were like, oh man, and he was like, I'm fine, I'm worried about the game. Move on.
Anywho, Booker and Durant both dropped 36 points to lead the Suns to victory, Chinmay. Who do you give the edge to in that series right now?
I think I would still give the edge to the Nuggets just because, they have home court advantage. But the Suns have showed that they're more than just those 2 superstars. They've had role players step up now, and that was always going to be the key for Phoenix. They have a top-heavy roster, as we've discussed, with Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, DeAndre Ayton, and Chris Paul. Chris Paul's been sidelined for a little bit, but who are the role players that are going to step up? And throughout games 3 and 4, Jock Landale coming in off the bench, delivering huge minutes for the Suns. He actually, surpassed Ayton basically in crunch time. And then Cam Payne and Landry Shamet yesterday in game 4 hit big shots when they needed to. And that's going to be the key for Phoenix. Can the bench consistently produce in games? And will they be able to win a road game? That's going to be the question for Phoenix. So I would still give the edge to the Nuggets. But, as Jeff mentioned, even with the Celtics and Sixers game, yesterday we had the 2 MVP candidates for the last 3 seasons, Jokic and Embiid. And the most important players in these 2 games, which in my opinion were, 2 of the top 3, maybe top 5 games of the playoffs so far easily, were James Harden and Devin Booker, these two guards. So I think even though these big men, Jokic and Embiid, have dominated the MVP conversation and are in contention for the best players in the league, let's not forget about these superstar guards who have the ability to take over in the postseason, because Harden and Booker absolutely took over yesterday in key games for their teams to level the series. So these two series look like they're going the distance, and it's going to be great for fans.
Okay, well, two more games tonight. Miami and the Lakers both tried to make a commanding 3-1 lead as the lower seed. So who's the DFS play between the Heat and the Knicks, Chinmay?
You can't go wrong with Jimmy Butler as your star play. 9,500, you're getting a little bit of a discount. I know that he's questionable with the ankle injury. He was getting some work on it late in game 3 and ultimately didn't have to play that much at the end of game 3. So he's getting a little bit more rest, but you can't go wrong with Jimmy Butler as your star play. In terms of a value add, I do like Max Strus. He's averaging a little over 22 fantasy points per game in this series, and they need his shooting. He's at about 38.5% from deep right now, and he's chucking with volume, chucking with confidence. I think Strus continues to have a strong series for Miami, and at 4,600, that's a really good price tag for him.
All right, Jeff, what do you think? Trying to save some money here?
Yeah, a little bit of money. This series has been an absolute mess from a DFS perspective, which checks out when you watch the games. These are just grinded out defensive battles. All of the stars are either injured or struggling to stay consistent. It's just not an ideal matchup for fantasy. So I'm staying away from all of the high-priced guys in this one. I do understand, as Chinmay said, if you want to pay up for Jimmy Butler, I'm slightly concerned about Miami getting a little complacent in this one, but he is the play if you want to pay up for a star. The Knicks are clearly the more desperate team, and I think there is a specific area to attack here. Emmanuel Quickley is doubtful for tonight's game after spraining his ankle. Assuming he sits, there would be two direct beneficiaries, and the first is Josh Hart, who would become my favorite play in this matchup. He put up 45 fantasy points in game 2 of this series. He already plays a ton of minutes. He's one of Tibbs' favorite players despite being acquired at the trade deadline. So he wouldn't necessarily see a bump in playing time, but he would see a bump in usage on offense. So I would roll with Hart. And then I also think Quentin Grimes has potential to step into a larger role if Quickley sits. So that's a legitimate value play.
All right, Jeff, who would you consider the best DFS play between the Warriors and Lakers? Golden State, the more desperate team here.
Yeah, and I'm sticking with that trend. This game is a lot more fun from a DFS perspective. I think the obvious answer is Anthony Davis. The Warriors haven't had an answer for him in 2 of the 3 games in this series. That being said, I'm going back to that argument. Who's going to get complacent and who's more desperate? The Warriors have all the motivation heading into this game. Falling behind 3-1 could be a hole that they are unable to climb out of. So I am much more focused on the Golden State side, and I look at Steph Curry, who hasn't played up to expectations in any of the 3 games of this series. And you have to like him in a huge bounce back spot tonight. This is pretty much a must-win game for his team. He's consistently come up clutch in these situations throughout his career. He did the same thing against Sacramento. I expect a big game from him tonight.
I mean, Chinmay, since the play-in round, we're talking Anthony Davis here has exceeded 60 fantasy points 5 times in 9 games here.
There's a little bit of a risk here because Anthony Davis has kind of alternated between good and bad games for much of the latter part of the regular season and the playoffs. I'm also going on the Golden State side. Again, a little bit of a value play and again, a little bit risky, but I think Draymond Green, as we saw in game 2, the Warriors got back to that Steph Curry, Draymond Green pick and roll with Draymond initiating as a driver to kick out to corner threes and maybe even get to the hoop himself. Now, the Lakers didn't particularly defend that play very well. They actually didn't defend it at all, if we're being really honest. So I like Draymond Green to really have a bounce-back game here. I don't think he puts up outstanding numbers, but I do think he's more aggressive, and the Warriors do put the ball in his hands more on the offensive end. We know what he can do defensively. We know he's going to attack the glass, but I think the Warriors go back to that bread and butter, Steph Curry, Draymond Green pick and roll, and work their offense through those 2 guys. I think Draymond has the ball in his hands tonight, and at 6K, I think he's a good value play.
All right, Chinmay, let's mosey on over to the DraftKings Sportsbook. What is your best bet this evening? Looking in here, Heat favored by 4.5, Lakers favored by 3 in these 2 matchups.
You can take the Warriors with the points. I think I'm taking the Warriors on the money line, though. The Golden State Warriors have all the desperation in the world right now. because they know the uphill climb from a 3-1 lead, 3-1 deficit. They've done it before, but this team is not that team, that 73-win team that came back from a 3-1 deficit. They desperately need this game. They cannot go back home down 3-1. I know the Warriors won 2 road games in their first round series against the Kings, but to ask them to win another road game in a game 6, which would be a closeout situation, if they were to go down 3-1 and then take game 5, I think that's too tough for them, especially this current roster, the construction that they have right now. So I think the Warriors win tonight, plus 130 on the money line. If you want to parlay that with the other game, you can get a lot of value here. If you think the Knicks are going to win, plus 486 on the parlay with the Warriors. And if you think the Heat go up 3-1, plus 257 for a Heat Warriors money line parlay. But I think Golden State is the leg that I'm more confident in tonight.
All right, Jeff, what are you confident in tonight on the DK Sportsbook?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Chime. I think Warriors money line is the play, and we've got a sensational 6 coming up, which I think Chime is about to take a look at. Oh, don't groan at me, Emerson. We hit it last week, but I'm not going to talk about anything on sensational 6. I'll let Chime go there. I think Warriors money line is 100% the play, as both of us have touched on. Golden State has all the motivation in the world. The Lakers have been able to dominate this series physically so far. And the Warriors know coming back down 3-1 is technically possible. They've been on both ends of that comeback, but it's almost impossible to win 3 straight games if you aren't the more physical team. In games 1 and 3 of this series, the Lakers took at least 20 more free throws than the Warriors. So if Golden State falls down 3-1, they're not going to be able to win a game if that disparity happens again. As a result, they know they need this one. We haven't seen the best from Curry so far in this series. Even Klay Thompson has been pretty inefficient compared to his standards. I expect both of those guys to show up and the Warriors to get it done.
Yeah, before you two take off, we do have some unexpected news to share with you. The sensational 6, it actually hit on Friday, as Jeff has mentioned already. Hell has frozen over, and because of that, we are writing it again tonight. Chinmay, I'll start with you. What's your favorite leg of this one?
Credit to Jeff for nailing this one last time out. I did not tail it then, but I will tail it tonight.
Gotta
ride with my guy here.
You will too, right, Emerson?
Nope.
I think Jimmy Butler, 25 plus points, is probably the easiest one to back, easiest single leg to back here. 34.4 points per game. He's hit 25 or more in every single game this postseason. The volume is there, 22 shots per game. He's getting to the free throw line as well. 10 free throw attempts per game. And the efficiency is ridiculous. I mean, 56, 40, 76 shooting splits. Jimmy Butler, 25 plus points. That's the leg that I think is an automatic.
Well,
right.
Jeff, we're out of time.
We're
Sorry,
out of
can't
time.
get your reaction to something you built.
Put it on Twitter. Your job here is done, gentlemen. We are heading to the ice after this. And why there's no better time than now to hit the panic button if you're a Maple Leafs fan.
No.
Yikes.
Yo, DraftKings, y'all got the most ways to bet on NBA players. I'm hyped. Hitting props, that's my dog. Stack up buckets, blocks, and boards on my boy? Or superstar going one-on-one against another superstar? Oh, it's on. And all these bets are on my man's dedicated page? Now you spoiling me, DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and bet $5 to win $150 in bonus bets on your team to win. Action's so good, why bet anywhere else? That's my move. He used my move.
You know, betting without a game plan is a little like skating a giant ramp without helmet and pads. I wouldn't risk it. And I wouldn't bet without a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook provides you with tools to set a realistic budget and time limits, so you're ready to bet responsibly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook and casino apps to learn more about how you can practice safe bets.
This season, DraftKings Sportsbook is your place to bet on the greatest sport on ice. There's so many ways to get closer to the game. And with this latest offer, you can win big. Now that is deserving of some victory stick taps.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up with the promo code, and take advantage of this great offer.
And get in on the action with an official sports betting partner of the NHL.
With DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports, you can play for millions with a lineup full of big NBA stars. Maybe you throw in a three-point specialist that's been around the league, seen a thing or two. if you want. Download DraftKings and play for your share of millions. Action's so good, why play NBA anywhere else?
All right, look at this. Yesterday, May 7th, the 7th day of 2023, in the month of May, 3 hockey games. Look at the Devils putting up an 8-burger on the Hurricanes, so they're back in that series. The Panthers, oh my gosh, just squeezing the life out of these sad, decrepit Maple Leafs right now. And then the Kraken, release the Kraken. 7 against the Stars.
Yeah.
OMG.
Actually, so we have NHL.com's Anna Dua and RotoWire's Paul Bruno here. And Anna, you retweeted a tweet that you had put out a while ago.
Is that right?
That was like, watch it be a Panthers Kraken Stanley Cup. And then you retweeted it and you were like, haha, I was kidding, but like, maybe.
I did say that. I was totally kidding, but it seems like that's what we're headed towards now, guys. So I accidentally predicted the future, I guess.
Yeah, look at you go. So we talked about it. Devils responding at home. 8 goals to take game 3. How big was that for the Devils to get back in the series here?
It was huge. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see this New Jersey Devils team wake up in game 3 of every series after getting blown out in the first 2 games. So maybe that's just their strategy to catch the other team sleeping. But what a performance that Jack Hughes had in that game 3. I can't talk enough about it. A 4-point night for him. He's been on fire for the Devils during the regular season, bringing that heat into the postseason. Now you're seeing a little bit of the depth of the Devils come forward too, which is a part of the team that I know a lot of people had some doubts about. But like Mikey McLeod is a brand new hockey player in this series, guys. He had a goal last night as well, shorthanded. So it's just crazy the depth that they brought to that game. And it's going to be an interesting game for sure. I know Carolina likes playing at home, but it would be really important for them to try a little bit harder in game 4 than what happened in game 3.
All right, Paul, don't worry. We'll talk to you about the Maple Leafs in a minute here. But
Thanks.
Yeah, don't
You're
worry.
welcome, buddy.
I know you're really looking forward to having that conversation. I'll let you put it off a little bit longer and get your reaction on that Devils game as well.
You know what? Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and that's a good thing. Obviously, a critical win for the Devils. I laughed at the series predictions, though, that had Carolina looking so superior to this Devils squad. They're young enough that they don't they get over stuff quicker, I guess, and they don't worry so much, it seems, as a team. They were separated by a single point in the regular season. At 2-0 Canes, I still thought the series was far from over, and I'm going to still side with New Jersey because they're at full strength and Carolina's not. So that's what it boils down to for me.
All right, Paul, now to your favorite
Take a
part
deep
of
breath.
the program. Yes, deep breath, please. Arguably the worst game of both Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner's respective 7-year tenures with Toronto. Toronto, which now trails the Panthers 3-0, a nearly insurmountable deficit. That overtime loss yesterday, what can you say about Toronto's top players disappearing when the team needed them the most?
Well, you know what? A couple of them are coming up for new contracts, and I'm going to be interested to see how they're dealt with because they certainly don't look the value, even half of what they're currently being paid. So there's a big issue around the corner for this team, and who knows if the current general manager is going to be around to deal with it if they should get dispatched in the 4th game later this week. But we've seen 3 close games so far this series, all of them going Florida's way, of course. And the most surprising aspect is none of the Leafs' top 4 forwards has even got a goal so far in this set. So it's not just one game, guys, where they're coming under fire. They've been no-shows for 4 games, and it was at least 4th line guys that were the best players for them yesterday, and that was another damning indictment of what's going on. So I can't wait to the series end and how they explain all this crap. Because there's a legion of fans here that are suffering right alongside with me. And look at the Panthers, on the other hand. They've now won 6 games straight over Boston and Toronto, 2 of the very top teams in the league. And they trailed them by miles in the regular season. So you gotta give the Panthers their due. They've caught lightning in a bottle. Pardon the pun for the other Florida team. But you know what? Full credit to them. They deserve where they are.
Anna, it was like a week and a half ago, Maple Leafs fans were chanting, "We want Florida," outside the arena there in the 6. Be careful what you wish for, right?
Stupid ways to die.
Yeah, really be careful what you wish for. I mean, this Florida Panthers team has been so underestimated heading into the postseason. They still have so many talented players, but just talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, guys, I know in the preseason I said that I didn't think this team was going to make the playoffs. They proved me wrong. They rallied, and then in the postseason I had Tampa winning in the first round, and they still rallied and proved me wrong. And I was like, you know what, like maybe they're overcoming the issues that I had with the squad, and then boom comes the second round when it matters the most, and all the issues come to the surface, in my opinion, for the Leafs. And the craziest thing that I want to point out is I just feel like this system is not serving this team well right now. The core four is absent when it needs to be, and the Leafs played the best when they had Matthew Nyes in the lineup. He wasn't there for that first blowout game in round one against Tampa. Joins this Leaf squad, brings grit, brings fire, creates space. I wasn't shocked that he was on the ice for all of those OT winners in round one. Now he's out of the lineup, and it's the same Maple Leafs that we know and love. And this kid is the only kid that hasn't played in the system for quite that long. So it's just interesting to me how different the team is with and without him when he's a rookie and is not one of their core four guys, but truly they were a different team when he was there. And it's just crazy to see the performance they had when it was wide open for them. Boston's out, New York's out, Tampa's out. It was right there for their taking, and the Leafs just did not live up to the mark.
All right, Anna, Seattle coming out and dominating with a 7-2 victory on home ice over Dallas on Sunday night. I mean, that was pretty incredible. It was like the floodgates just opening.
It was, and I feel like that's another team that we really underestimated. During the regular season, they were right up there in goals per game and shots per game among all NHL teams. They were scoring and everything, and they had, I believe, 12 different players with a point in that game against Dallas. So this team's depth has been thoroughly overlooked. That's what happens with the expansion teams sometimes, guys. They get these depth players from all these different squads, and when they come together, sometimes they can make miracles happen, and that's what's happening in Seattle right now. They've definitely proven themselves this postseason, and it's just been crazy to watch, but they absolutely deserve the success they have coming their way.
Paul, the first period was scoreless, but what happened during that first intermission? The Kraken kicking into high gear. They had 5 goals in the second.
I think the longer it goes in a close game, there's more pressure on Dallas to produce something and open things up. And Seattle loves that style of play because they continue to play the role of counterpuncher guys in these playoffs against teams that were far superior in the regular season. They're playing with house money. They have been for the whole playoff because they're playing without fear, and no one expected them to be here still. So the mindset's got to be pretty free, clear, and easy. Normally, all teams face pressure in the postseason, but the Kraken and the Panthers are 2 exceptions, and the burden of zero expectation is one heck of a big advantage for both clubs.
All right, Paul, we got one game on the slate tonight. The series shifting to Rogers Place. The Oilers looking to take their first lead here against the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 3. Who do you want to put in the captain spot?
Emerson, I would put you in the captain spot if you were the line mate of Draisaitl and McDavid. Me or you, we could thrive in that role.
I'd be pretty cheap.
And Evander Kane is going to get that nod, and add to the fact that he's now more engaged because he got his feathers ruffled and got physical and got into the fighting thing. So he's fully engaged, and I think he's going to be a real menace on the ice tonight on the score sheet. Never mind with the physicality. There's no nonsense from him, and now that he's revved up, he's going to be hard to tame, and I think that's the guy I'm focused on. And if you look at the contrarian play of choice, though, and figure there's going to be an Edmonton letdown, then you got to go with the goalie on the other side. Laurent Brossoit for $13,200 would be the key figure in that scenario.
And I absolutely loved Evander Kane blowing kisses to the Golden Knights fan that was giving him double birds like to his face.
That was hilarious. Honestly, all the memes that came out of that were so funny. But I'm siding with Edmonton. When there's just one game on the slate, you got to go heavy on the team that you think is going to come out strong. And I think Edmonton showed that in the second game of the series. And I really like Evan Bouchard, guys. I mean, the kid has 2 points in both of the games so far this series, has a point in every single game this postseason, really coming to his own on his role in this team. And I just feel like on that power play, that Edmonton Oilers power play, there's no stopping them.
All right, good stuff, guys. Coming up next, 8-game main slate coming our way in Major League Baseball. Okay. Eric Halterman will join us to give a DFS and sportsbook preview.
Okay, an 8-game slate on the diamond tonight. An 8-game slate on the diamond with some excellent top-end pitching, a little bit of value on the bump. Let's cover the bases with our guy, Eric Halterman of RotoWire. We will start at first base, because that is what you do when you cover the bases. Your DFS pitcher du jour. Hook us up.
Yeah, you mentioned some great pitching at the top. There is that trio, I think, that all have really good matchups in the top three pitchers. Zach Gallen, just over 10,000, gets the Marlins, who are 24th in Team WRC+. Just behind him, Dylan Cease, 9,700, gets the Royals, who rank 27th. And Nestor Cortez, 9,400, gets the A's, who actually rank more decently than I expected. They're 18th in team overall offense this season, which means I think I'm just going to Gallen at the top. I think I trust him more than those two. Cease gets the slightly easier matchup, but hasn't been that good this season, whereas Zach Gallen shook off a couple of mediocre starts to start the season, then had that excellent scoreless run, followed by just a normal outing his last time out. But on the whole, 2.53 ERA that's backed up by ERA estimators that are sitting right around 2.5 as well. A 35% strikeout rate against just a 3% walk rate for Gallen, going up against the team that traded him away here in the Marlins. I think it's an excellent matchup, worth paying up for the top guy on the slate.
All right, how about a hitter? Do you want to pay up here at second base?
So one reason I'm comfortable paying all the way up for Gallen is I think there's a nice cheap Giant stack today, because they get to go against Jake Irvin of the Nationals. Get to him in a second, because the most exciting Giant might be Lamont Wade Jr. Just 3,200 for him. You can slot him in at either first base or the outfield. Lamont Wade, more walks than strikeouts this season, hitting a modest 258, 6 homers. 436 on base percentage. He is walking in more than a fifth of his plate appearances. I think he's going to get on base and he's going to score. I think the Giants are going to score plenty against Irvin, who just made his debut at age 26. I just threw 4 1/3 innings with more walks than strikeouts against the Cubs. So I think he's definitely the most appealing pitcher to stack against here.
All right, third base, the hot quarter. Hook us up with a hot value play.
Yeah, don't you love when you can start a pitcher who just gave up 11 runs in his last time out? I think that really fills you with confidence, which is what you want heading into your week on a Monday. So I'm going to go with Braxton Garrett, who did just give up 11 runs against Atlanta his last time out. But I think he's really not that bad, Braxton Garrett. Last year, a 3.58 ERA in 17 starts, and the ERA estimators backed it up. His xFIP, Sierra, both about 3.50. And he was better than league average in strikeout rate, ground ball rate, and walk rate last season. And because it's so early, that one horrible start for Garrett gives him a very bad ERA, 5.81. But there's not really a difference in my mind between a start in which a guy gives up 5 or 6 and a start in which a guy gives up 11. It's really a matter of just, did the manager leave you in there to keep getting knocked around? Both of them are bad starts. He's coming off a bad start, but I'm just not going to treat it as much more than that. Before that bad start, he had a 2.45 ERA in 22 innings, 19 strikeouts against just 3 walks. So I think this is an interesting pitcher at a very cheap price against a Diamondbacks team that is heavily left-handed, which gives additional bonus to Garrett tonight.
All right, Eric, let's go over to the DK Sportsbook. A lot of different ways you could go with this. What is your best game bet?
I think the most interesting one to me is Oakland, plus 165, it looks like it is, against the Yankees. A couple pitchers here in JP Sears and Nestor Cortez, who have actually had similar seasons, despite Cortez coming in with much more pedigree. 5.06 ERA for Sears, with the ERA estimators about a run better. Nestor Cortez, 4.91 ERA. ERA estimator sitting around at 4.5. Both of them, strikeout rates 25 point something, walk rate 6 point something, along with very low ground ball rates. Neither JP Sears nor Nestor Cortez has been able to keep the ball on the ground this season. Although for Cortez, it's actually below 20%, which you almost never see. For JP Sears, his ground ball rate is just shy of 30%, which is normal territory for the lowest guys in the league. That's going to lead to some home run problems for Cortez. And the A's lineup is actually not terrible. I alluded to it earlier by Team WRC+. They sit 18th. That's better than the Yankees. So despite that team overall being bad, I think they have a chance here. against the Yankees, who should not have Aaron Judge back just quite yet.
All right, Eric. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it, man. We are out of time, but if you're craving more baseball talk here on The Sweat, Tuesdays, the Tuesday Takeover with Jared Carrabis, it is for you. Here's a little taste of what that is like.
The Pittsburgh Pirates, the effing Pittsburgh Pirates. Can you even believe it? 20-9, lead the NL Central. It's just wild. Second best record in baseball. So are they a contender or a pretender? Don't look at the hat.
Yeah, don't cheat.
Don't cheat.
I'm not going to cheat.
Nice hat.
Oh.
They're a pretender.
Oh, thank God I got contender.
And why?
They're a I mean, at the end of the day, they're the Pittsburgh Pirates. They're still in a division that has some pretty good teams in it, although you don't play a ton of teams like within your division this year. But they have young talent. O'Neal Cruz, that injury is going to bite them eventually. Do they have the starting pitching to sort of make it to the end here? It doesn't seem like it. It's a nice story, but I think by the All-Star break, this is also an owner that doesn't want to spend. He just spent the $100 million on Brian Reynolds. Is he going to add at the trade deadline? Probably not. Like, if they need help in some certain area, are they going to go out there and go get that guy? More than likely, that's not going to happen.
So contender, as we just talked about in the last segment, it's not like they're just getting lucky at the plate. Like, they have the best expected batting average in the league, so which basically means that, like, they're hitting to their actual true potential right now, and I think that that's going to continue. I think they have a lot of good young players that can hit. Like you mentioned, O'Neal Cruz being out, their best player is out right now. They're getting a lot of production from a lot of guys you wouldn't expect. I do worry about that pitching staff, and when it comes time, if they're still in contention at the trade deadline, I know the owner doesn't want to spend, but you're in a position you weren't expecting to be in. Might need to splurge a little bit.
Time now for what's becoming a Monday tradition, unlike any other, Monday Mud Stack with our guy, sports radio host, Mike Mutnansky. Good morning. How are you, Mutt?
Guys, good morning. Happy post-Derby Monday. Happy Pollen Monday in New England, as you guys know. Allergy season full swing on this Monday morning in May. What's going on?
It's disgusting. There's a lot of snotty people walking around this office right now. But you mentioned the Derby, Monday after the Derby. Mage gets the win at 15-1 odds. It was a pretty ugly week at Churchill Downs, really. What was your one big takeaway from the 149th running of this race?
Yeah, when Emerson's texting me about all the ugliness at Churchill Downs, it's an issue.
Yep.
Big takeaway is pace makes the race. Mage, deserving winner, but did not run the best race in the Kentucky Derby. Two Phils who ran second ran the best pace. He was part of the 11th fastest half-mile Kentucky Derby time ever, and he still held on for second. If his jockey waits a little bit longer, he might get the win. But Mage deserves the win. Angel of Empire, my pick, ran third. No excuses for him. Just did not get the best of trips. But the horse you want out of this thing going forward, I think potentially next week in the Preakness, might be the horse that ran second, Two Phils. Took all the trouble up front and still held on for second.
Yeah, so is that going to be your pick for the Preakness? I mean, less than 2 weeks away now on May 20th.
Yeah, I'm not committing to a pick right now, but I think if you told me that Two Phils would be somewhere at 3 or 4 to 1, Jesse, I'd be very interested. We found out this morning that the Derby favorite, Forte, who scratched out Derby morning Saturday, part of that weirdness Emerson talked about, they're pointing to the Preakness, so you might get Forte was the Derby favorite, Mage the Derby winner, Two Phils who ran second, horse named First Mission, who I like a lot in the Preakness, who won the Lexington a couple weeks ago. I'm not committing to Two Phils, but boy, if a generous price, second or third choice, I could bet him based on the trip that he had in the Preakness. The field right now looks really good for the Preakness next Saturday.
All right, so from an ugly week at Churchill Downs to an ugly night for the Celtics, Mutt. Yeah, I know. So they're even now at 2 games apiece with the 76ers. Boston just fumbled another golden opportunity to seize control of this series against Philadelphia. How serious of a title contender is Philly? Or is this more of just the Celtics struggling to close out like weaker opponents and lacking that just killing instinct?
Yeah, I think it's that second part. I don't think Philly's a legit contender because Embiid's not healthy. Like, I think it's pretty clear it's going to take him a while to be healthy. 100%, Emerson, I've been telling you that it's worrisome the spot they're in. But this is the Celtics doing. Like, they came out in game one, didn't play defense, didn't execute the end of the game. Last night, the coach, Joe Mazzulla, was allergic to calling timeouts. I know he said he liked the shot they got, but they still could have gotten that shot with the timeout. awful offensive performance down the stretch. This is the Celtics doing. If they play at their best, they're just a better team. They're making things so freaking hard on themselves right now, the coach and the players. Eventually, they win this thing in 6 or 7, but you could have got it done in 5. You get up 3-1, I think Philadelphia would have quit. They kicked that game away yesterday. That was rough.
All right, Mutt, let's move to Golden State and the Lakers. Curry and LeBron are the headliners, right? But it's been Davis and Thompson starring as the scorers in the series. Are we going to see LeBron and Curry bust out in Game 4 tonight? What do we think?
Yeah, if I had a crystal ball, I would have picked the Derby winner on top. But boy, it does look, Jesse. It tonight feels like a vintage Steph Curry night. I keep thinking Game 4, down 2-1. They trailed 2-1 in the first round of the Sacramento Kings. And I keep thinking about that Game 7 Curry performance. And this is the night I think we see it. I think Steve Kerr is going to try to get him the ball early and often. I think the shooting woes that we saw from Golden State, both Klay Thompson and Steph Curry in that Game 3, will be better here on the road in Game 4, although they have been a bad road team this year. Of the two guys, LeBron or Curry, I think this is the night that Curry busts out because I think that they'll get physical with LeBron, with Draymond getting healthier, and I think this is a big Steph Curry. Just feels, maybe you guys disagree, feels like Steph Curry Game 4 bust out tonight in this series.
I think he's shooting just under 50% too from deep. So what else is in the stack? You got a best bet for us tonight on the DK Sportsbook, dude?
Yeah, let's start with that. My best bet is that game we just talked about, and I just looked it up a second ago on the DK Sportsbook. The under is the total is 227.5 for Lakers and Warriors, and I want the under here, guys. The Lakers got 37 free throws in Game 3. They're not getting that again. The Lakers had 13 threes, only third time in the playoffs they've done that. They're not doing that again. This thing's much more physical. Draymond's much more involved. Steve Kerr and company try to muck it up. Looney was sick. He's getting healthier now. This thing feels very under to me. And the public, they agree with me right now. The line's not moved a lot, but the public is like 98% in terms of a total money bet on this game coming in on the under. So it's a late night game. Steph's going to go off, but give me the under 227.5, an uglier game than what we saw offensively from the Lakers in Game 3.
All right, thank you for your words of wisdom. We love
Later,
hanging out
dude.
with you
Later,
on
guys.
Mondays. We're going to grab some golf bets from Jeff coming up right after we dive into some NFL futures with him and Pierce. That's coming up next.
All right, so following the draft, like a week and a half ago or whatever, the NFL futures market has really started to open up a little more on the DraftKings Sportsbook. So we have DraftKings contributors, Pierce Dietrich and Jeff Ulrich here, breaking out their big crystal balls because we're looking into the future right now.
Seeing the future. Let's go. All right, fellas. I guess that's the sound a crystal ball makes. We got Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud passing totals. 3,750.5 yards, 22.5 touchdowns for Young. Stroud checking in just below those totals. 3,675.5 for passing yards, and the same 22.5 touchdown total. Pierce, thoughts on the lines, and do you have like an early lean here?
Well, first off, in general, when we make these bets, we have to lean towards the unders just because injuries happen. Roles could change. Maybe Stroud doesn't start the season. We never really know. But all that being said, I don't want to pick an under. It's not very fun. So let's go with an over. Give me Stroud. I like where he's coming out from Ohio State. I think he's a little bit more pro-ready. I don't really like either one of these offenses very much. The weapons that are going to surround these guys, not the greatest. The offensive lines aren't the greatest. And in both examples, the defenses aren't that great either. So they're going to see a lot more of passing scripts for these guys. I imagine they're just going to unleash them and let them go wild. And it is a passing game. I just like Stroud better as a quarterback. I think the Texans probably playing in an easier division as well. So I'll take the over on Stroud.
Jeff, you want to take a little over here? Come on, man. I know you like it.
Pierce started it off so well. You should be looking towards the unders on all these player totals, always. Looking for a reason to take the under. Injuries help you out. Benchings help you out. Player depth charts, whatever. Weird coaching decisions help you out. I'm surprised Pierce took the over here. I really am. 11 quarterbacks went over this total last season. Only 11. Do you know where the Texans ranked in terms of DVOA, offensive pass DVOA? 31st last year. They were terrible throwing the ball. Look at their wide receiver depth chart. You can like C.J. Stroud all you want. He's going to be put into a very impossible situation. Robert Woods is his wide receiver one next year. And you want to take an over? I think this is a very, very good under to take on C.J. Stroud, in my opinion. You also look at what the Texans did last year. They were only 24th in rush play percentage, but now they've got a new OC coming in who came over from San Francisco. What did he see there? He saw a team that ran the ball with a lot of effectiveness, and he's already come out and said, Bobby Siwick, that he wants to play to his player's strength. His strength on offense is Dameon Pierce and running the ball with Dameon Pierce. I think you're going to see with DeMeco Ryans, Houston turn into a grinded-out team, run Dameon Pierce as much as possible, protect C.J. Stroud. I do not want anything to do with an over here. I think it's a great underplay on C.J. Stroud's yards. As far as Bryce Young goes, I actually wouldn't touch him. I think if anything, I would probably lean over there. I think he's got a far better – I'm completely on the opposite side of the fence here with Pierce. I think he's far better ready to come in and be ready pro. He's also just got a better supporting cast and a better head coach.
Yeah, speaking of running the hell out of the football, I mean – hardly any teams did it better than the Falcons last season. Good offensive line here. So, Jeff, a good situation to land in if you're a rookie running back, Bijan Robinson. 1,100.5 rushing yards, 8.5 touchdowns. What do we think?
So, again, I'm going to start this off by saying, especially with running backs, you should always be looking to take unders. At the same time, I was very surprised to see that this line opened at only 1,100 yards. Tyler Algier rushed for over 1,000 yards on 210 carries in this offense last year. Atlanta runs the ball in all different situations. Every situation. They had a terrible defense. They were second in rush play percentage last year. Their defense gets better. They're in a weak division. They're probably only going to run the ball more or the same kind of percentage. Bijan Robinson was 8th overall. He was taken 8th overall in the draft. You don't draft a running back 8th overall and give him less than 250 carries. I'm sorry. And Bijan Robinson is a far more talented running back than Tyler Algier. It's just facts. The only thing we're fading here at 1,100 yards is an injury. And for me, that's the kind of situation with the running back where I do tend to lean towards the over. So again, I'm definitely not going out of my way to bet overs on running backs for season-long props. You should always be looking for unders on running backs because it's an injury-prone position. But with Bijan Robinson here, I do think you'll see this line move. I think you'll see it get up to 1,150. This is far lower than I was expecting. And at this point, yeah, I do think it's a good over, as long as you're willing to take on that injury risk, because we're very early in the cycle here. Lots of practice time to go.
Pierce, are you as surprised about this number as Jeff is?
Well, I'm not surprised that Jeff is very bullish on this. He says that Bijan is a generational talent. I think that term gets thrown around way too much. It's too sensational. It's clickbaity by bloggers.
Yeah.
And when I think of a generational talent, I think of Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders being the best in a league dominated by running backs. It doesn't take much now to be technically a generational talent because there aren't any running backs it's not a running back league. So I guess when you have a generation void of talent, then yeah, he is a generational talent. But I think he's a little bit overrated. I believe that there's plenty of running backs in that offense already. There's going to be not as much work going around. Yeah, Tyler Algier got 1,000 yards when he was the only running back. Now we've got another running back in the mix. We've got injury concerns. We're going to have a different quarterback. I don't think the situation is as good as it was. And I could also see them getting into situations where they want to pass more with Desmond Ridder as he develops. So I'm definitely taking the under here.
All right, what do we think, guys? Been a little over a week here to digest the draft, right? Pierce, who's your early pick for Offensive Rookie of the Year? You got a lot of places to look. You could take Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, maybe Bijan Robinson, who we were just talking about.
Who's the favorite right now, plus 300?
Well, I'll take the first player you mentioned, Anthony Richardson. I don't think he is the best quarterback. I don't know if he is the best player in this draft, but he is in a really good situation. Often when we get a quarterback getting drafted early, it's to a really terrible team. Stroud and Young are not really going into the best situations with the best offensive lines, whereas Anthony Richardson is just benefiting from the Colts just being terrible last year. He's going to go into a good situation. He's going to have a good offensive line. He's got really good receivers in Pittman, Pierce, and they drafted the Downs, and they've also got an elite running back. So he's in a great situation. Calls himself Cam Jackson. I think he's going to be able to get those dynamic, flashy plays. And again, the AFC South, not really a tough division. So I'm going to go with Richardson based on, you look at Cam Newton. He won Rookie of the Year. He went 6-10. I could definitely see Tony going 6-10 or 6-11, probably better than that. Making the big flashy plays, running the ball in for touchdowns, hitting his receivers. I think he's the shoe-in for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
A shoe-in. Jeff, are you as confident in your pick?
I'm not as confident, but I do like the Richardson call. The problem with Richardson is his odds now have moved. The market clearly saw what Pierce was seeing. He was plus 900, plus 1,000 2 weeks ago. He's moved down to the second quarterback. He's just behind Bryce Young. He moved in front of C.J. Stroud in the odds, and I think that's where he should be because I agree with everything Pierce said. I'm going to go further back. We've seen a wide receiver win this award each of the last 2 seasons. Quentin Johnston at plus 2,000. He's the third wide receiver in the odds, but I really think that when you look at landing spots, Quentin Johnston fell in the best spot of all the first-round wide receivers. It's going to be paired with Justin Herbert, a strong-arm quarterback who can make it all the throws outside the pocket. Quentin Johnston's 6'4". He's big, he's fast, he can get separation, and he's with a new OC in Kellen Moore who wants to use him. Kellen Moore, this is his first-year OC. He had a chance to pick pretty much any wide receiver outside of Jackson Smith and Jigba. He went and picked Quentin Johnston because he wants a big, fast wide receiver. He said he wants more splash plays. Justin Herbert was 31st in yards per attempt last year. That is not going to happen. And you're also in a situation where Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, these are wide receivers who cannot stay on the field. So there is a bit of a target argument here, but Quentin Johnston could come in, absolutely just outplay one of these players as well, just get on the field more because of injuries. I think he's in a very good spot. He should not be the third wide receiver in the odds, in my opinion. And at plus 2,000, I think he makes for a very good long shot bet at this point in time.
Jeff, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Will Anderson, top defensive player taken in the draft, and that's exactly where he sits right now on the odds board on DraftKings Sportsbook, plus 350. Who is your pick right now?
Yeah, Anderson certainly. The chalk sometimes hits in this Defensive Rookie of the Year award. And Anderson, if he gets a bunch of sacks, he's going to have a very good chance. The Texans were brutal on defense, so they're going to see an improvement. But I'm going to go further back again. Plus 2,000, Deonte Banks, New York Giants. I really like this pick. He ran a 4.35. He's got tons of athleticism. The only reason he slid in the background is because he had a shoulder injury in college. But giving off major Sauce Gardner vibes to me, New York was 22nd in points allowed on defense. Deonte Banks is probably going to come in. He's probably going to cover all the team's wide receiver ones. He's got the skill and athleticism to do it. And if the Giants take that leap forward, if they go from 22nd to, say, top 10 in terms of points allowed and have a very good pass defense, Deonte Banks is going to get a lot of credit. I just think that he's an underrated talent as well. And I think at plus 2,000, where the market is here, if you're looking back in these kind of odds, that's the kind of player you want to be targeting.
Pierce, who would you be most confident in betting right now?
I'm going to go with those same Sauce Gardner vibes and take a cornerback, and it's going to be the Spoon Man in Seattle, Devin Witherspoon. Just PFF gives him an outlandish grade coming out of college, but it makes sense. You look at his stats. He only allowed 22 receptions on 62 pass attempts against him. He allowed 200 yards last year. all season long. Some receivers get 200 yards in a game. He allowed that over the entire season. Did not allow a touchdown. He's going to be flanked by Tariq Woolen. You've got Jamal Adams back there, Quandre Diggs. The Seattle defense is on the up and up. I like the supporting cast. He's going to have an opportunity to hit those big splash plays, and that really is what it comes down to. But another thing that you might want to take a look at, we don't know yet, is who's going to be in the most primetime games. In the past, New England got a lot of primetime games. I don't think they're going to get very many. But if that's the case, then Christian Gonzalez on primetime may have the opportunity to get a couple interceptions, and that might kind of vault him to the top of the list. So definitely look at the schedule when you're picking some of these defensive Rookie of the Year players.
Okay, well, the NFL schedule release, by the way, this morning reportedly could be delayed. It's supposed to come out on Thursday, but we'll see. Pierce, you're free to go. Jeff, you are not, because we got to talk about dudes who can roll a good meatball. Dudes like Wyndham Clark, who is the latest first-time winner following a 4-stroke victory at the Wells Fargo Championship. Hey, what are the chances he uses this as like a launching pad for success? Something we've seen other first-time winners here do, like McElroy, Ricky Fowler, Max Homa, to name a few.
Look, I mean, Wyndham Clark has always had the talent. I mean, he's big off the tee. I mean, he can get it out there consistently, straight, 350 with the best of them. He's always been rated up in terms of strokes gained off the tee stats. He's a really high-end putter, too. There's a reason why people always talked about Wyndham Clark when he was kind of a long shot bet, when he was back in the odds. It's like, okay, this is a very good player to take a shot with. When you can roll it like he can on the greens and you can blast it as consistently as he can, eventually good things are going to happen. He's figured out how to put it all together. He's improved his around the green game, and he massively improved in strokes gained approach this season. And you saw that in the final round when things started to get shaky. He just started to put, just started to put it on the ball again, just started to put it on the pin. I think Wyndham Clark has all the talent. I think you can start to think about him in terms of guys like Cam Young, in terms of guys like even Will Zalatoris. I would even consider, Wyndham Clark probably maybe a more proficient winner on the PGA Tour than a guy like Zalatoris, for the simple fact that he can putt. Zalatoris is a great ball striker, but Clark has really just turned into a great all-around player, in my opinion. So I think it is going to be a launching pad for him. I think you'll see him win again in the next couple seasons for sure, and I think he'll probably start challenging at majors. So sky's the limit. He's always had the talent. Seems to have put it all together this season. Nice to see.
All right, let's look ahead to Thursday. But before we get to the course, let's talk about the new look for Hole 17 that is going to be the talk of the golf world. So TPC Craig Ranch is introducing a new stadium hole for the par 3. So how great is this for another course to be getting in on the fan atmosphere here?
Love it.
I mean, it's really good. I mean, again, we've talked about this I've talked about it since I really started covering golf. I mean, for DraftKings is, why don't more events take things from TPC Scottsdale, which always gets record crowds, which always gets record attention? It doesn't have to be that every course has a stadium course, but at the same time, when you design things like this, it does draw a little bit more attention to your event. This isn't an event where we'd normally be talking about the course or talking about the setup. Now everyone is talking about it because they're going to be doing something a little bit different. I think it makes a ton of sense. And again, it doesn't have to be all the same thing. It doesn't always have to be a par 3 or always like a party hole. But I think that taking things from the successful events makes a ton of sense. I'm happy to see it. And again, a place like AT&T Byron Nelson, this isn't an event that's going to get a ton of attention. It's right before the PGA. It's not an elevated event. Do something different. Do something a little bit out of the ordinary. You're not changing something crazy. It's still a stroke play event. Do something cool for the fans. This is exactly what people want. So I love it. I think it's great to see. And I love that it's on the 17th. It's the second last hole. So you're going to be going down. You're going to be playing the second last hole in the middle of a crazier environment now. It's going to be fun to watch. I'm excited to watch it on Sunday.
Yeah, we've seen courses like TPC Scottsdale, Jeff, where after 16 was such a success, they started growing that a little more to 15 and 17 and even trying to make 18 super fun. Let's get to on the course of the Byron Nelson. So despite not being a designated event by the tour, Jeff, you still got an exciting field here. It features world number 2 Scotty Scheffler, plenty of other high-end talent as well. So who's going to play well near the top of the betting board right now?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the betting board, I mean, look, I expect most of the top players to come in. These guys aren't coming in to play this week to sort of just, take it easy or do anything. They want competitive practice. The PGA is next week, and we've seen it at this event. The top players performed well. Justin Thomas was T5 here last season before he went on to win. Jordan Spieth was second went on to win the PGA Championship. I'm, of course, talking about with Thomas. But Spieth was second. Scheffler wasn't great, but, I mean, he was still top 20. I expect all these top players to do well. This is a weaker field. It's an easier course. It really just comes down to, can their putter get hot enough? As far as players I'm looking at in the odds, I'm actually looking at Tom Kim. I mean, where did we see him win the Wyndham Championship? A little bit easier course. I think that Tom Kim has struggled a little bit on the PGA this season, but it's because he's seeing some of these courses for the first time. He's seeing tougher courses like Riviera, Quail Hollow for the first time. It's a little bit tougher. This is an easier setup. You don't have to worry much about around the greens here. It's wide open off the fairways. I think Tom Kim has a very good chance of bouncing back this week. And just if he gets his putter rolling early, I think it's going to be a very good chance for him to put in. So I'm looking at Tom Kim. Also looking at Hideki Matsuyama plus 2,200. Came off some neck issues after the Masters. Hasn't played for a bit, but he got treatment in Japan. He's practicing. He looks good to go. He loves Tom Weiskopf designs. Weiskopf also designed TPC Scottsdale. He designed TPC Craig Ranch. Matsuyama was third here last season. You're going to see a big week from Hideki as well.
All right, good stuff, Jeff. That is all the time we have today. Thank you for joining us. Do not forget, tomorrow is Tuesday Takeover with Jared Carabas. We'll be talking all baseball. That is at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you then.